Okay, you are the conductor of the RAI Orchestra
For this week.
for this week, I know. You are 34 years old,
Yes.
and you receive many awards. So, what is your secret?
I don't think there is a secret. Um, I think that I was lucky when I was young to be in places, in schools, in festivals, where I got to pursue and study the things that I really loved, the kind of repertoire I loved, the kind of opera. I loved opera a lot. I loved the symphonic repertoire. I loved contemporary music. I got to study them in great detail, and I got a lot of experience. I was just lucky to be in the right place at the right time, and some awards happened along the way. But I think that there really is no secret to conducting. The more that I do it, I think the more I believe that it's not something that actually can be taught in the way that we think of someone training on a musical instrument. The basic stuff is 10 minutes. The rest of it is just something you learn through time and through experience and through listening to orchestras and understanding how they work, and then how you can serve what they already do very well.
And what are the differences between USA and Italy working in an orchestra?
Oh, well, every orchestra is very different. In both in Italy and in America, we have orchestras in almost every town, every city. And depending on who the conductor is, depending on where the musicians come from, they're of different qualities, they have different strengths. I would say because the contemporary music in America of the last 60, 70 years has been very motoric, very rhythmic. People like Steve Reich and Philip Glass and people like that, I think orchestras are trained to have a real rhythmic core and sort of backbone. And Italian orchestras are are extraordinarily rhythmical and very clear, but really want to get to the music. They want to get to the heart of the music, and they want to sing all the time. I find that in Italy, the less that I try to beat, the better it goes, and the more I trust them to make music, especially in a concert, then everyone ends up very happy.
And what are the difficulties in this kind of job?
I think the main difficulty is just how quickly you have to learn a new group of people. I had a conducting teacher once, I would watch him conduct, and he would tell me by the end of the first rehearsal he could write a little book about every person in the orchestra. He spent the first rehearsal not really rehearsing, but actually just going person to person in the orchestra and trying to get something out of them and to try to see how they respond. When do they look up? How do they take information in? Some musicians take in information right before they play. They look up to get an articulation or an entrance, and they look down. Some will stay with you all the time, and some will look up. Most actually will look up afterwards to see, was it okay. I would say that the greatest challenge is figuring out when do people take in information, so that when I need something or something's happening, I can go to them at the right time and figure out, okay, now you're ready with me, and we can work together. So I think that's the challenge. We had 2.5 days of rehearsal for this concert. I've worked with this orchestra before, but 2 or 3 years ago, and then the first time 2 or 3 years before that. So I'm a very different conductor each time I come, and they just get better and better. Or maybe I'm just getting older and older and realizing how great they are. But I think that's actually part of getting older as a conductor. Not only do the great masterpieces reveal more to you as you get older, but the orchestras reveal how sophisticated they are in their playing and their listening. And I only can perceive it now because I'm older and I can listen for it and I acknowledge it. But the greatest difficulty is just you start on Wednesday and you have a concert on Friday, and sometimes it's a whole new group of 80 people who all have very different attitudes and personalities and skills and passions. And the job is really how do you take what's in your head and make it real, but actually how do you make all of these people play together and form a collective interpretation that people can believe in that the musicians can believe in, so that when they perform with conviction and with passion. And this orchestra plays with passion and conviction every bar of every rehearsal, of every performance, which is why it's such a joy to be with them.
And since decades, philosophers and musicians try to answer a question: what is music? So, according to you, what is music?
Music is how we figured out how to communicate with each other through sound but not words. Because it can take almost any form. It is just vibrating air. There's nothing else. In Africa, they used to have something called speaking drums, where groups would communicate with other villages with drums, and because the language was pitched, because the language had pitches, they could actually play high and low tones on the drums and make the language. But sometimes the same musical gesture would mean 2 or 3 different words, so they would have to expand on a word. They couldn't just say attack at night. They would have to say, attack when the moon is in the sky, that thing that is in the sky when the sun is not in the sky. And at that point, now we're in poetry. But we're in poetry just through sound, and that's music. And also, Beethoven is music, and also Steve Reich is music, and also, Radiohead is music. That it is just the purest way in which we can communicate with each other collectively through sound and not words. That's the best I've got so far at 34. Ask me in when I'm 35.
Next time.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's all.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.